You can believe or not believe, but I know that I believe it because I saw it firsthand. Hi, I'm Martin Yianni. I've been living in Bulgaria since 2005. Expat from London. Love the place. Okay, but there's a few things I want to share with you, not just about things I've seen in Bulgaria, but maybe before leading up to them. I'll tell you right now, I'm a big skeptic of anything unnatural. If I hear things that people have seen or look at videos and look at TVs, excerpts, people explaining UFOs and unexplained mysteries, I'm very skeptical. I'm a firm believer that if you've got something that's the truth, it can only be proved by first-hand experience, and that's what I'd like to sort of talk about now. A lot of the stories are sort of dressed up on social media. That sort of puts me off big time. If I hear a sort of orchestral music leading up in a documentary and it's all frameworked with all these effects, it tends to put me off believing these sort of things. But anyway, here's my story. Firstly, I've had quite a lifetime of experiences with spirits, things I can't explain, things I can explain, but strange. The first thing was when I was living in England. I had an experience on a farm that was deemed to be haunted. We tried to leave and we couldn't leave because there was this force trying to pull us back, and that sort of stuck in my mind. I was only about 7 or 8 years old at that time, but that was the first experience I had of an unnatural force which couldn't be explained. Why was this thing trying to pull me back into these sort of out farmhouses? That was the first thing. Then when my grandfather died, he died of cancer, unfortunately. The moment he passed away, there was this massive wind that went straight through the house. All the doors were shut, all the windows were shut, there was this wind went through. I think they were saying his spirit had just departed. And then when the service came into the church, when his name was mentioned, another wind went through the church and blew all the candles out in the church. And that was something that stuck in my mind ever since. And that sort of spiritual thing, I think there's something in there. And that was first-hand experience, not just from me, but all the people in the family that had that situation. Back in Bulgaria, I was in Hisar, the spa town, enjoying the nice walks there. It was in midwinter, and I was really keen on taking pictures of the Roman artifacts there. I went out one evening, it was dark, and started taking pictures because there was spotlighted parts of the wall with the big camel there, and I took pictures, thought nothing of it. When I got back into my hotel room, I looked at my pictures, and blow me, one of the pictures showed a ghost. It looked like a soldier on a horse, and it was a clear night. There was no cloud, no mist, but there was this cloud formed in that shape of that horse and Roman. It seems like a Roman soldier, and that's something that sort of took me back. Of course, I shared this on social media, got a couple of reactions, but no one believed me because it wasn't first hand. But I know what I saw, and I know what picture I didn't know the picture was actually of that ghost until I actually took it home. But that happened. Other things that make me skeptical. There was this old story about fairies, picture of fairies being taken in the back of a garden, which this is going back maybe 50, 60 years. And there was this picture of fairies in the palm of a woman's hand. And everyone was skeptical about that, but there were scientists, professors that did experiments trying to find out whether that picture was manipulated or sort of falsified in some way. They couldn't find anything at all. This went on for about 50, 60 years, so it was sort of believable. And then the only way that we found out that it wasn't real is when the person that took the picture said, okay, it was trick photography. But people have been fooled for decades with this. Again, first-hand experience. Only that person that took that picture knows what was the truth and what wasn't the truth. In this day and age of technology, you know, we can create stories non-fictional stories from our imagination. We can do anything on videos, on pictures. The talking, writing is something else, but pictorial evidence has a much more stronger influence on people when they see things. We're only limited by our imagination and our knowledge, and when it comes to coming up with stories, again, this first-hand experience is something that only I believe can be true from my own mouth and my own eyes. I'll go on to what happened in Skalitsa one day. It was I'd moved in 2005 to a village called Skalitsa, well known for strange things happening. I think there's reports of aliens there. There's the healing stones, which has got great foundations for believing there's a spiritual force, magnetic forces happening. One evening, in the evening, I will sit on my balcony, facing east, with my feet up on the balcony, and just taking the evening. You could hear a pin drop. This particular night is one day in November. It was dark. The sun had gone down maybe 2 or 3 hours before. Complete dark. In the distance, there was a complete flat landscape. There was no hills, or all the leaves had dropped from the trees and the bushes, so I had a clear view of what was in front of me for kilometres and kilometres. This particular night, I was watching, and there was these 2 orange lights in the distance, about 3 or 4 kilometres away. Orange lights, and they were sort of throbbing a little bit, and I thought nothing of it. It must be traffic. But after a while, I'm thinking to myself, actually, there's only one road where I'm looking, and that's about 500 metres away. So it couldn't be passing traffic with lights. And I thought, well, maybe it's a tractor. It could be a tractor with lights. The lights continued to sort of show themselves and throbbing. And then all of a sudden, one of the lights on the left, the 2 lights, one on the left, started having a sort of orange-yellow trait. The colour slightly changed a bit, and then it moved to the left. The one on the right was still stationary. The one on the left moved to the left. It sort of hovered a little bit and then moved back to its original position. And I'm thinking, well, tractors don't divide themselves, so it couldn't be a tractor. And then it went back to its normal orange back. And then a few moments later, the one on the right rose up. Before it rose up, the colour changed slightly again to a sort of yellow-orange sort of texture, and moved up, and then moved down again. And I'm thinking, what on earth? What can this be? I can't explain anything. There wasn't any what they call these things that fly in the air nowadays. Going back 15 years, so we didn't have the technology for probes and things like that, so it wasn't one of those, and it was too far away. They only had small lights, these probes, so it couldn't be that. So I'm still there. Now my scepticism sort of faded, and I'm thinking, well, actually this can't be explained, so what could it be? Then all of a sudden, both of those objects started throbbing even more. They turned into yellow. They rose very slowly together, simultaneously, and then at about a 75-degree angle on the left, they suddenly whizzed out of sight, and then just faded very quickly into the distance. Now, I don't know anything that can move that fast, and they were in tandem, totally in tandem, and it went. And I'm thinking, well, actually, I've just witnessed the UFO there, because I can't explain what it is, and it certainly wasn't anything that I can contrive. And in that area, there's just fields. There's no buildings, there's no roads, there's no infrastructure there. It was just plain Thracian land, flat land. And I was there, a bit of gasp. But 15 years later, I'm talking about it now, and it's still as clear today as it was those 15 years ago, and I still can't explain that situation. I'm still a skeptic, but less of a skeptic than I was before I saw those. So, and that's my story. And I'm sure these things are going to happen again before I sort of pass away, and maybe I might join them after I've passed away. We'll see. Okay, that's my story. You can believe or not believe, but I know that I believe it because I saw it firsthand.